and so it is. And so it is. It just takes little few moments like that to get ourselves centered again into understanding that we are more than our circumstances and our situations and all our worries and all our woes and all our trials and all our tribulations. We are so much not any of that. Oh yes, we're experiencing them, and they're very real experiences. But we do that because we've allowed our egoic mind to be in charge for so long. And that egoic mind is usually very scared and scares. And so we listen to it, and we get the pulsation of it, and we identify with it, and we forget who we are. Well, as I was thinking this morning, what is it that Spirit might want us to know today? As usual, I put my hand out, pick up the book, and the book I picked up is a very light book, very small book in the sense of it not having that many pages. And it's an old book written in the 1930s, as many of these great metaphysical books were. There was a surge at that time of metaphysical inspiration and guidance coming through. And this little book was by, it's called The Key to Yourself. It's not in print anymore. And it was written by Dr. Venice Bloodworth. And so this particular page that I had opened was on the law of attraction. And as you know, the law of attraction is one of the laws, the natural laws, universal laws of life. And I'm going to share it with you because it's a short piece and it's well worth reminding ourselves of these things. The law of attraction is the law of your being. It is neither good nor evil, neither moral or immoral. It is simply a blind law that cooperates always in perfect accord with individual demand, as I think it so it is. It is the one source of perfect justice, and by its action you reap what you have sown, and that which you have measured unto others is measured back unto you, as it is stated in Scripture. What I put out there is what comes right back at me. So if I'm shoveling out there a whole lot of negativity, guess what? That and then some comes back to bury me. That's how the law of attraction works. It's called to the law of reciprocity and the law of circulation. What goes around comes around. What I send out comes back. Think of your thoughts as boomerangs that are going to come right back and hit you up the rumpus sometimes. We don't want that to happen. There is no way to escape this law. You may use it consciously or unconsciously, but use it you must. It is the law of life and controls the universe with absolute, undeviating precision and justice. It's the law that's the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. It never changes. It's a principle that never changes. Times change, people change. Principle never changes. It's always the same. The benefit man received by the operation of this law is represented by the forms of supply that add to his comfort, his human needs, and happiness, as determined by him individually. Now, this language is not inclusive. It was written in the 1930s, so be patient with it. When we use man or humanity or mankind, we're just meaning everybody, every individual. And I think we all get that by now. Food, clothes, money, houses, automobiles, that dates it, automobiles, etc., are all symbols of this law of attraction and are all related to man through this law as cause and effect, desire and response, demand and supply. What I think happens. What I think with concentration and focus happens quickly. I think, And in my thinking, I've started a creative process. Because every thought has creative energy in it and starts the nucleus of something, if I support it sufficiently with my thought, will suck into it everything like it, like good, bad, or indifferent. That's where we have to pay attention. It is the operation of this law that produces such varied conditions and circumstances, riches or poverty, sickness, health, joy, or sorrow. With such a conglomeration of conditions as we see manifested on every hand, you can understand how people came to believe in evil, poverty, disease, and discord as being necessary somehow to the human nature. When you realize fully that all these conditions have no power within themselves and are simply the results of individual thought, you will have found the birthright of every human being. Your birthright is knowledge, truth knowledge. And then what you do with that is up to you. You can squander it, or you can use it wisely and well. You must first know that such a law exists, and then live in accord with it. Live alongside of it. Live with it instead of living outside of it and against it. And your life will have the stamp of either choice. But mostly we're unconscious about this. And unconsciousness still creates if we're thinking into it, whatever we're thinking into it. The laws of life and nature do not punish or reward man. We simply live in and out of harmony with nature's laws, and our happiness or misery, health or disease, prosperity or poverty, is the working out of that law as cause and effect, in perfect harmony with our individual demands. Every thought is making a demand on the law. Do we understand that? Every thought I have makes a demand on the law, moves the law into arranging some way or another for this to happen, whatever it is I'm thinking about. That's how you're likened unto your Creator. Through consciousness, in your consciousness, through the way we think. That's what makes us the image and likeness of our Creator. Our ability to think, and through our thinking to create. That's how we create everything. Everything in the visible world was once a thought somewhere or another that came into being. And everything in your world was once a thought that came into being. Now, I know, and I've done it myself, well, I wouldn't sit down and deliberately make myself sick. I wouldn't sit down and deliberately make myself poor. I wouldn't deliberately, and all the negatives behind that. Yes, you're right. You wouldn't deliberately do that. But most of our consciousness is occupied with unconscious thinking, random thoughts. And to live randomly is to live in a very scared way. Because living randomly is like the throw of a dice. You don't know where it's going to land. On the bright side of life, on the dark side of life. Because you're not in charge. You're not in control. You're out of control of your thought. And being out of control is never anything but dangerous. So again, we always come back to the one thing. As you think it, so it is. As a man thinks in his heart, so it is. And endeavor to pay attention, to monitor our minds, because that's what affects all of our life. That's how we get ourselves into trouble, but it's also how we can get ourselves out of trouble too. That we must not forget. We're going to get into trouble, but now we know we can get out of it. And hopefully we're not getting into trouble deliberately. We're going to keep making mistakes while we're on planet Earth. It's a big school, and as you know, in school, you learn by making your mistakes and correcting them. I can remember once a very wise person saying, a spiritual community is one in which you participate in order to discover your faults and correct them. That was the emphasis with that particular teacher. The rest was an aside, but that was the main reason in that person's mind why we come together in community, to recognize our faults and correct them, our mistakes and correct them. Now again, you'll hear me say, we will make mistakes, but please let us make new ones, not keep making the old ones all the time, because that's a big anchor on us and stops us from moving forward in maturation spiritually. This is the truth that we must understand and live by if peace, power, love, health, happiness, and success are to be part of our daily life. Understanding the law of reciprocity, the law of mind in action, the law of attraction, the law of correspondence. You see, life responds to me according to my thinking. As I think, so it is. The law of correspondence. All the one law. The only way to change your conditions in life is to change your mind about those conditions in life. The need to happiness and prosperity and the road to it begins in one's secret thoughts, and the motive power by which we progress along that road is constructive emotion expressed in right action. Now, emotion is mentioned here. Emotion there you can equate with conviction, the feeling of it being so. Now, we're told in our teaching to always, when we're focused on realizing some good, to assume the feeling of that good already fulfilled, to assume that feeling, because the feeling is the fuel that drives, if you like, drives the vehicle of thought. Without that fuel, that conviction, that feeling, thought is just going to keep circulating around and around and around, hopefully not doing any ill, if not doing any good. So random thinking is what we're getting at here, which is what most of us are occupied throughout our day in. Random thought. Our minds are used to wandering all over the place. And we have to keep pulling our minds back to attention throughout our day. Or not. Most people don't. But for you and for me, if we're interested in becoming spiritually mature, the road to that is always through conscious consciousness, conscious thought, consciousness of feeling, consciousness of thought. What am I thinking now? What am I feeling now? And why am I feeling what I'm thinking now? Because I woke up this morning and I was feeling really good, and now here it is, noon, and I feel rotten already. What in the name of goodness have I been thinking since I got up? And then you look at it and you say, oh, okay. I can see why my energy has depleted itself and why I don't feel so good right now. Because I've been chewing on this negative thought for God knows how long this morning. And so you have to relax it, release it, and let it go. And there's no easy way to this. It's like there's no easy way to learning that musical instrument. You have to practice. And this is three-dimensional planet Earth. This is a school, and you have to practice in it. You have to practice to become good at whatever it is you've decided you'd like to be good at. And the practice can be tedious in the beginning especially. And then when you get used to it, it becomes a habit. And the habit then becomes just as easy or difficult as brushing your teeth, the first thing you do when you get out of your bed. Last thing maybe you do when you go to bed at night. It becomes that automatic. You don't think about it one way or another, you just do it. And that's where we want to be with our spiritual practice. That's how we'd like to have our mind be, where it automatically just turns to the affirmative rather than to the negative. And that is indeed the key, the secret of life, if you like. It's the secret that has been so well kept, and now that the secret is out, it's status quo now, we're so used to it, we don't see it. It's like anything else. We're so used to hearing it, we're so used to people telling us about it, we're so used to reading it, we're so used to. We don't see it anymore. It's like, you can walk through a garden and not see all the beautiful individual flowers in it. It's a garden. You just see the whole glob. And you hear me say it over and over again. If one lily or one rose just bloomed one day a year, we'd be lining up, we'd be in caravans to go see it. Like the way some of us do go see the poppies when the poppies are all out. But imagine if there was only one of something. You and I would think that was so amazingly precious that we have to visit it and see it for ourselves. And yet each individual is so amazingly precious and unique. We just walk all over each other, far less see each other at times, elbowing each other out of the way and so on and so forth. So, it doesn't matter what's going on in your life, you can always improve it. And there's no such thing in infinite beingness. There's no such thing in the order and in the nature of infinite beingness as the incurable. Infinite being doesn't know what that is. But that's very much in our human nature to know that, to believe that. And as a result of it, have our lives changed however our lives are changed. Now, it takes a while to get to that point, from just being totally unconscious to everything and being afraid of everything and feeling that you're at risk all the time in this world in one way or another. So the preciousness of the gift of life is for you and for me to ponder and study and ruminate over, so that you and I can become masters of our own lives as we are meant to be. Self-mastery. They say, it's an old adage, I think it's from the East, a man who can handle a great army is great indeed. But a man who can handle himself is mighty. And there is that poem, and it's a man talking to his son, and he's going, if. If you can hold your mind when everybody else is losing it around you, you'll be a man, my son. After every if, he says, you'll be a man, my son. That's not an easy thing for those who endeavor to do that. It's not always easy to hold your mind, keep your mind at bay, and keep yourself from losing that poise, that centered poise, that grace, and just going out of control. So what is this life if full of care? We have not time to stand and stare, said the poet. Don't just do something, sit there, is the title of a little book. Don't just do something, sit there. And that means you and I need time to be in our own company consciously. We need time to check in on ourselves consciously. We need time to be quiet in ourselves consciously. If, and it's a choice, if you really want to enjoy self-mastery, that is. And the only thing you and I have to master in our lives is ourselves. No one else, no thing else, just ourselves. And God knows that's job enough. More than enough. But do you think you're worth that investment, is the question. Do I? Do you think you're worth that much investment? Some of your time, some of your energy, some of your essence being present to the self of yourself? Well, I certainly think you are. I mean, we're besotted in this world with this whole thing about being unworthy. We feel so unworthy. I just had somebody say that to me recently. But I feel so unworthy. And then it was when I said, you're entitled. He said, well, that's something I've never thought of saying about myself, that I'm entitled, because I always see that as a negative. And then I would just say simply, look at it this way. If you were the firstborn male of a king in times past, it didn't matter whether you were an idiot, a clown, whatever you were, the most brilliant person on the planet, you'd be king. It was your entitlement, because it's your birthright. You didn't have to earn it, and you don't have to earn self-mastery. It's a given that you can self-master yourself. There's nothing to be earned. There's nothing you and I could do that would be worthy in that sense. It's nothing to do with worthiness. It has to do with your understanding of your birthright and your entitlement. You have been pre-approved before you arrived. Pre-approved. Now, you may not have your own self-approval, but you've been pre-approved by life itself, or you wouldn't be here. Chosen by life itself, or you wouldn't be here. And you're only here because you have been chosen by life to represent it, to represent life in this holistic way, in this masterful way, in this peaceful, poised way, in this aligned way. It was in your DNA always, your spiritual DNA, so to speak. But you and I forget this when we come into three-dimensional planet Earth, which is a very dense plane, actually. But we can wake up any moment we choose to wake up, you know. We can be the prince unto ourselves and give ourselves that kiss of wakefulness because we're spiritual beings without boundaries. We're energy without boundary. That's what we are in truth. Energy, all life is energy. All life comes from energy, is sustained by energy as energy. So you'll always hear me say, when you feel yourself sinking a little bit, when you feel yourself being depleted a little bit, whatever it takes for you to do it so that you can start filling up the glass again, not emptying it, until it's spilling over. And all of that beauty and grace spills out over onto all of life. You're amazing. I don't know how else to say it, but you're amazing, and the only person you have to amaze is yourself when you wake up into that amazement. And to live in awe and wonder, to be awed by life, to be wondered by life. And it's for you and for me to do that, discover that. And we do. Actually, unconsciously, we're doing it all the time. We're taking in something all the time that's awesome. We settle on something that's awesome from time to, even if it's just like a butterfly that lands and then takes off and lands and takes off and lands and takes off. But remember, that butterfly also hits the sky where there are no limitations. So, my dear ones, take the day and what's in it and make of the dough of today something delicious. Something delicious, regardless what the ingredients are. You can do this. I've often gone to the cupboard and just looked around and said, I know I'm going to find something that I can produce. And I always do. Only when I know, if I just open the cupboard and say, it doesn't happen. But if I know I'm going to go to that cupboard and I'm going to go to that pantry or whatever it is you're going to, and I know I'm going to find the ingredients for a nice meal. And it happens every time. You have all the ingredients you could ever desire given to you to have a great life. And my prayer is that you'll gather up those ingredients and use them wisely and well. Why not? It's yours to do. You can do it. And you know why you can. We stated it at the beginning of the year. I can, therefore I will. And that's prefaced by I am. I am, therefore I can, therefore I will. You say that to yourself throughout the day, and it will remind you as to whether or not you're being your best self, your together self, your focused self, your conscious self, your wisdom self. And I know that some people listening in here are having rough patches going on, challenging times, challenging situations. Of course I know that. But it's specifically for you I speak. Just go for that little glimmer of light in there, because it is in there, and build on that, and you will come through the better for having had the experience. There is nothing too big. There is nothing too powerful. There's nothing too awesome that spirit by means of you cannot take care of. Cannot take care of. So be in your own corner. Stand in your own place. And stand straight and stand tall. And tell yourself the truth about yourself. And stop telling yourself all the lies, all the I cannots. Don't go into the dark of awfulness and terribilizing and victimhood. You are never meant to touch victimhood, ever. Never. Be the victor that you are. And if there's anything we can do here to assist you, you just let us know. And understand you're being prayed up, really, really prayed up. And that we're knowing your highest and your most wonderful unfolding good for you. So remember, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And it's up to me because I am, I can, and I will. And so it is. And now we're going to just pause for a moment, think about our daily bread, how blessed we are that we can share from it. And we're going to have that little ceremony now. So I'm going to get my envelope, which probably is up the steps here. Yes, indeed. And we're going to just know this, that it's up to each and every one of us to be open to the fullness of life's givingness and to be wonderful, grateful recipients, and then circulate. So this is what we're knowing. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, to prosper. All those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love. And so it is. And until we meet again, I advise us all to stay connected, stay tuned in, and please do participate in what is being offered to you at the moment. And thank you for all your beauty and grace and goodness out there in the world, and your generous spirits and your loving hearts, because it's making a huge difference. And we are here on your behalf, keeping it all going. And we're very aware of that sacred responsibility. And so decide now to make the rest of this day the best day you've had yet. you can do that. You can make that decision. And it will be so if you keep your conviction underneath it throughout the rest of the day. And even if you only achieve it for an hour, that's huge. That's huge. And if you can do it for an hour, you can tell yourself, I'll do it for another hour. So stay tuned in, and please do join in all that's going on. And it's great to be with you all in class, and it's great to be with you all at the Tea and Inspiration, which is a lovely time when we get together and share with each other. And there's always a mini lesson every single week in there, and we take it in turns to do that, to present something that's always very meaningful, and we enjoy. Those of us who get together, we really do enjoy it. So take good care of yourself and know that God, by means of you, is quite capable and quite able to have a good life, to mend, to fix, to heal whatever seems to need it, to discard of whatever it is we need to discard of, and to let in whatever it is of good that we need to let in. God, by means of you, can do this. So lean into the presence, lean into the goodness, in open receptivity to life's circulation, and then rejoice and share. For that's how it gets done. And that's your ability. And don't take my word for it, test it out. So I will leave you the way the children do. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Take care of yourself, and remember, God dwells in you as you.